Good afternoon, Malcolm. Hi, Miss Jackson. Staring out from under my hood, I looked at the computer screen in front of me. Miss Jackson is the head librarian, and she likes to make the rounds and see how the library patrons are doing. My backside is beginning to get sore from sitting on the hard chair for so long. I wish they would get some chairs with cushions, but I guess I could always buy a cushion of my own. Sitting in my usual spot, back in the far corner, away from the main traffic among the stacks, my fingers fly over the keyboard, slipping from website to website. Coming to the library is the only refuge I get from along the chaos that reigns at home. Mom's new boyfriend and I don't get along, and is always opening his mouth and criticizing me at every turn. He is also slightly abusive to her. There's no hitting or anything like that, but he isn't soft with his words towards her. I wish she would just kick his butt to the curb, but she just can't find the strength to not have a man in her life. The library is quiet this afternoon. The staff has grown used to me, and the free internet connection allows me to do my homework and surf the web at the same time. One of the things I like about the library in this small town is they don't have a lot of money or know how to create a really secure internet. I am able to go to websites I probably never would be able to in a larger, more modern and secure location. I found I can even log into the web using a VPN, a private server that masks my activities and identity from any prying eyes. Not that I'm doing anything illegal, but I do like poking around in the dark web, and that was one place I don't want anyone knowing about my involvement. I stay far away from the drug websites, the human trafficking sites, and the murder for hire sites. I have no use for those kind of sites. Though, getting rid of my mother's boyfriend would probably be a good use of an assassin. But she would just cry about his death and then she'd find another guy, probably one worse than this clown. Maybe I could have him trafficked out of the country. No, better to just leave him alone. I'm doing a search in Tor, looking for websites that deal with inventions that have been made public. Most of these inventions are things the government would swoop in and shut down if they got wind of them, or confiscate them. Other than that, they are pretty harmless, like some kid trying to build a nuclear reactor in his bedroom, or some guy trying to figure out how to build a time machine. The kid has absolutely no source for the fuel for his reactor, and the other guy doesn't want to accept that time travel is against all laws of physics. But it's fun to read. I put in a search for time travel experiments and notice a link to a site that looks out of place. It appears to be a news site, not the usual thing you would see on the dark web. The part that caught my eye was the date under the link. It was 3 days from now. Obviously, it was a mistake by the site. I'm not sure why, but I clicked on the link and waited for the site to open. When it did, it looked like a text version of a regular news site, but from a news source I'd never heard of. Most of the stories were pretty ordinary, and the dates under their headlines appeared to be correct, with today's date. But the story which showed up in the search engine snippet had the same date about 3 days in the future. That wasn't the only thing that I found intriguing. The story was about a woman that had killed herself in her apartment, but the police were saying it was an ordinary murder. It seemed as if a wild animal had gotten into her apartment and torn her into pieces. The story even had the day and dates wrong. It said the murder had occurred last night, Saturday, but today is only Wednesday. I looked at the story again, figuring that it had happened last weekend, but I hadn't heard anything about a murder like this in the past few days. If something like this had happened in this small city, the news wouldn't have escaped my ears. I read the story again and then began to think someone was playing an elaborate hoax. It was the only explanation. But why would someone hoax a story like that was amazing to me. Some people can play some pretty sick jokes, and this appeared to be one of them. I looked at my phone and saw that I had less than an hour before the library closed, and I wanted to get my math homework finished before I went home. There was no way I'd be able to finish it at home. Sunday morning came bright and early, with the buzzing of my phone on my bedside table. It was only 7 in the morning, and I had no reason to get up. Whoever was calling me and disturbing my lazy Sunday morning was going to get an earful. I look through my half-closed eyes at the display and see it's Jackie. Why would she be calling me this early on a Sunday was a mystery. Hello? I grunted into the phone. Mal, wake up, man. You remember that story you told me a couple of days ago? What? I said, trying to shake the sleep from my head. What story? The one about the woman that got killed here in town and looked like a wild animal had done it. Oh yeah, I said as I rolled onto my back. Mal, she's dead, just like you said. Sleep evaporated from my eyes instantly as I sat up in bed. What do you mean she's dead? Just like you described it. Some woman who lives about 3 blocks away from your house. You haven't told anyone what I told you, have you? Someone like your dad? No. Why? Because if the police found out I knew about this before it even happened, they would be looking very closely at me as a suspect. I heard Jackie giggle on the other end of the call. You didn't kill her, did you? No. What kind of person do you think I am? I'm just yanking your chain, man. Hey, I'm gonna have to call you back. I need to find a paper or watch the news. Okay, call me later. After logging on, I go to the website for the local newspaper and the main story is about the murder. And even though I don't have the dark web story in front of me, I'm pretty sure it's the same story, word for word. It's Sunday and the library is closed. I have no other place to log into the dark web, and can't chance it here at the house. The best I'm going to be able to do is get up early tomorrow and get to the library when they open. I'll have about an hour before I must leave and head for school. Reading through the story again, it is so real to me. How could I possibly see a story about a murder that wasn't going to occur until 3 days later? The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, telling me the answers to that question were probably best left alone. Monday morning couldn't come soon enough for me, and now I'm sitting in my usual spot, in the dark back corner of the library. But I'm not alone this time. Jackie is sitting in a chair next to me, watching as I log into the dark web and begin moving towards the news site that I'd seen a few days earlier. Before I pull the site up, I look at her and ask, "Are you sure you want to see this?" "Yeah, it's probably going to be nothing. What are the chances there will be another story about something happening in the future?" She had a point. I clicked the link and some news site opened. The third headline dealt with the murder, but now it was current, or even past news. It happened a couple of days ago, so he wasn't moving down to the front page in order of importance. I was about to click on the story link to see if anything had changed in the story, but Jackie gasped and this made me look. The top story was dated for Wednesday night. This coming Wednesday, not last week. The headline read, "Serial Killer Strikes Again." One thing I did not want to do was click the link, but it was clear I had to. My fingers trembled as I moved the mouse to the link and was about to press the button, but Jackie reached over and put her hand on mine. "Do we really want to see this?" she asked. I pulled my hand away from the mouse and looked at her. "I don't know, Jackie. The other day I thought this was just a joke or a hoax, but now, obviously it's not. But what could it be?" I just shook my head. I had no idea what we were looking at. "Maybe the killer works on this news site," she said, "and they're planting the stories." That might be true, but I can't believe I'm the only one seeing these stories. There must be a lot of other people seeing this and someone would call the cops. This is the dark web, Mal. Some of the sick people that slither around in here live for this kind of thing. Like me. I didn't mean you. I know, and you're right. There are a lot of people moving around in the dark web, and I wouldn't want to know in real life. She looked back at the screen and shook her head. "We have to look at it." "Are you sure?" I asked. "Yes, though it scares me." "Me too," I said as I clicked the link. The story opened and we began reading. It told of an old man living by himself in the eastern part of the city that was attacked and killed in his home. Much like the other murder, he had been torn apart just like the woman had been. The police had no leads, and now the city was terrified that some new serial killer was on the loose. Look there, just under the headline. I looked, and it said that the story had been viewed by over 100 subscribers. That answered the question whether we were the only ones that knew of this. "We have to tell someone about this," she said. "But who?" "Anyone we tell will just think we're crazy. You're forgetting the most obvious person to tell." It only took me a second to realize who she was talking about. I almost felt like slapping myself upside down the head when it dawned on me. She pulled her phone from her purse and dialed, switched it to speaker mode, but turned it down so we were the only ones who could hear it. "Smithville Police Department. How may I direct your call?" "I need to speak to Detective Miller." "Hold, please." "This is Detective Miller." "Daddy, it's Jackie." "Hey, what's up, Pumpkin?" "I need you to come to the library. Mal and I have something you need to see." I guess he could tell from her voice that this was something serious because all he said was that he'd be right there. It only took him 10 minutes to get there because the library is only a couple blocks away from the police station. I think he even walked here. When he found us in the back of the library, he pulled up a chair and asked, "What's up, kiddos?" Jackie pointed at the screen and he leaned in to read the story. "Is this some kind of joke?" "Sir," I said, "I wish it was. You noticed the date, right?" "Yeah, a couple days from now." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a smartphone and took a picture of the screen, and then made sure to zoom in on the name of the victim and his address. "I don't know what this is, but I intend to find out," he said. "Sounds like someone is playing a joke here, and because of what happened to that woman the other night, I don't like it." "Tell him, Al," said Jackie. He looked at his daughter and then at me. "Tell me what?" I swallowed my fear, not because I felt concerned, but because I could see he thought this was still a joke, and I didn't want him leaving and not taking it seriously. "Sir, that woman that died the other night, I read a story just like this last Wednesday." "You did? You read a story like this 3 days before she was killed?" "Yes, sir, and I thought it was a joke too, until I saw the news yesterday and realized it wasn't." I lowered my head and looked at the floor. I realized if I had said something earlier, that woman might still be alive. "I could have saved her," I said softly. I felt her dad's hand on my shoulder and he squeezed it. "You did nothing wrong here, Malcolm. How could you know it was real? But now, I need to figure out a way to keep this man safe and catch the bastard who's doing this." He stood up and leaned over and kissed Jackie on the cheek. "Be safe, young lady. I'm going back to work." "Okay, Daddy. Catch this person." "You know I will." We watched as he walked away and turned around one of the stacks and he was gone. Jackie looked at her phone and said, "I hate to say this, but we are going to have to go or we'll be late for school." School? Who could even possibly think about school right now? I packed my laptop into my bag and we left the library. When we reached the bottom of the steps in the front of the library, we could see her dad walking quickly towards the station. Jackie snaked her arm around mine and said, "Come on, he'll catch the killer, but we still need to go to school." I don't think I have ever experienced a day in school that felt longer than this one, or the next day. Wednesday came and went. Jackie's dad got to the victim's house early in the afternoon and hid himself in one of the back bedrooms. Unmarked police cars were less than a minute away. Around 8 in the evening, the detective heard some glass breaking in the bedroom next to where he was, and he waited until he heard someone come out of the room and start down the hallway. Whoever it was, they were trying to move as quietly as possible, and when they passed the other bedroom, heading for the living room, Jackie's dad slipped out of his hiding spot and followed the guy. When he stepped up behind the killer, he pressed his gun against the back of the guy's head and told him it was over and not to bother looking for the old man because he hadn't been in the house for hours. This guy had come from the house fully prepared to do what he had planned. He had a backpack full of knives and cleavers. He was dressed in black from head to toe, including the standard black ski mask that bad guys like to wear. When he felt the gun against the back of his head, the guy started to laugh and said, "You really think this is over? It's just getting started." Jackie's dad called in the backup and, within a minute, they had the guy down and handcuffed, ready to take away. When they pulled the ski mask off his face, they saw he was just some punk they dealt with before. He liked to cause minor mayhem, but nothing that came anywhere close to murder. The whole time they were dealing with him, from when they cuffed him until they stuffed him in the back of the patrol car, he never stopped laughing. Where was I during all this? Right now, I'm sitting in the library, watching the computer screen. I want to see the story change or disappear altogether, while Jackie is at home praying like she always does, for her daddy to make it home safe. For some reason, tonight she felt the need to put in some extra time asking heaven for a favor. My phone chimed, and it's a text message from her dad saying they caught the guy and that it was over. Breathing a sigh of relief, I sat back in the chair and rubbed my eyes. Thank God. As I sat there with my eyes closed, I heard a chime from my laptop. There was a text box in the middle of the screen. Do you really think it would be that easy to catch me? You should have just sat back and watched like all the others here. But you decided to do more than watch. Well, watch this. As I watched the screen, the story began to change. Word by word, sentence by sentence, it rewrote itself. No longer did it have anything to do with the old man and his murder. When it finished changing, I was horrified at what I saw. I snatched up my phone and dialed the detective's number, and almost felt like screaming with each ring. Finally, after a few seconds, he answered. Hey Malcolm, thanks for helping us. Sir, the story has changed. What does it say now? It's Jackie. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and have beautiful nightmares.